How are you today?
Perfect, Jack. Very good. Great weather. How are you?
I heard that. I was just talking to someone else in Amsterdam, and he's like, "I'm thawing out." You know
I'm
that.
fine now. Yeah, perfect.
So he's good. Yeah, I'm doing very well. A bit of a rough start to my week. I was just feeling down, and
Oh,
it's
really?
picked up. Nothing bad really. I just was in a funk. Found my way out of it.
Yeah. I relate to it. As a startup entrepreneur, you have to deal with a lot of emotions as well.
Yes.
Perhaps we're going to talk about that as well. And still, why the ones who don't give up are the ones who end up kind of reaping the benefits.
Yeah.
Lots of theories out there, guys like Naval, who's very popular on Twitter. The people talk about 10-year windows and all that. So, but again, you get into some really deep phases where you think of survivability and challenges, personal, your startup, other things that are happening. So I can imagine.
Yeah.
So I can imagine what you mentioned.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's
But I
part of
hope
it.
you're coming up, staying upwind and
Yeah, usually I ride pretty high, and then part of what I'm doing is I'm launching this new product, this course. It's newish, new format, new audience, and that involves a lot of marketing. And it would be unnuanced to say I hate all of marketing. There are actually aspects of it that I really enjoy, but it's not my zone of genius. It's not something I have a complete mental model of either. And there are parts of it that I just don't enjoy. When I get into learning mode, okay, great, I'm learning, figure this out, I can figure the other things out. But when I put myself in achievement mode too early, before I've done the learning to actually be able to reliably perform, then I just frustrate myself and
yeah, yeah.
work the way I want and so on and so forth. So I was sort of tying myself in a knot with some marketing stuff earlier this week.
Yeah, that's why they say, the things that you like the most and are great at is the best combo.
Yeah,
Uh, and there are some things you need to get to where you could be great at, but they are not inherent to your nature.
totally.
Then you tie expectations. I have that too in other areas where I'm not an expert in, but I know it has to be done. Then I
Yeah,
start creating unrealistic expectations from myself and others to shorten that window. Well, it should be done tomorrow. Why
yeah,
are we waiting 4 weeks? And but again, those are the things that's what kind of creates dichotomy in expectations.
yeah,
The things we understand, we know it takes time because we are domain experts there. The
yeah,
things we don't understand, we assume they will go fast, but they don't. And then, yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
yeah. I love the mutual understanding. All right, let's keep diving into this. I'm just going to
Yeah,
give a formal intro phrase, and then we'll
yeah.
see where the conversation takes us. And we don't have to use the whole hour. Um, we'll see where we go. So welcome to AI for that. Today with Tarry Singh, who has a very diverse background in AI startups and exploring AI for much longer than it's been a buzzword. Terry, you were early in recognizing that AI was going to be something and started building from there. And one of the things that I appreciate about your journey, and I want to hear what the signals were that you were starting to put together and notice, hey, there's a pattern here. Was it in when was it exactly that you first uh, started building things with AI and building an R&D center around AI?
Oh, that's a great question. Because, when is the right moment to start is the proverbial kind of question we all deal with. In the time when I I kind of really actually realized inside my head that AI, or back in the days, we used to call machine learning, which it still is today. Everything is all about machine learning and statistics and linear algebra. That it would become more transformational is sometime in 2010 when I was working. So I had sold my first company, or actually sold my shares of my first startup, which had nothing to do with AI. That was 2010. So I had this time off. Um, I got an opportunity to work with a VC, an investor who was struggling with his company. There was a small startup here in the north of the Netherlands, and they wanted to do social analytics. Back in the days, IBM, um, Microsoft were promoting social analytics, social engagement. Social business was quite a bit of a buzzword. There were several companies. There was a company called Yammer with a Y. Yammer was like a social platform that was eventually sold to Microsoft. And in that sort of sphere, I started realizing that there is something more that can be done when you bring data from various different disciplines from a business, crunch it using simple statistical models, linear regression models to make simple predictions. For example, there's a ton of data inside emails of employees for decades. Companies hold that information even from past employees. There's a lot of knowledge in those email conversations and documents that are shared within the emails, etc. So we came up with an idea to bring it all together in a platform, which I proposed to the VC. I said, "Hey, your business is interesting, but your customers are not actually deriving great insights." So I said, "Okay, let's try to let me turn around your business, and I want some capital. Would you want to do this?" And it was Dutch investors are very frugal. So he says, I can provide you the means and, limited means, and do that. So the good thing was, we spoke about last time as well in our private conversation, that constraints really give you the best benefits. So
Yeah.
I was quite frustrated. But again, this was pre, the lush and the gush era that we are experiencing now. People are throwing words like billions and trillions, which you heard last couple of days, is also when the US administration with all the AI guys are traveling to the Middle East.
Yeah.
But this was really the frugal days, which I think still most Dutch VCs and startups still kind of live by that principle. So we came up with a model. We said, okay, social analytics. Let's get all the data together from data repositories like SharePoint. Yammer was actually getting acquired and was acquired already within Microsoft. So we said, let's create a more appealing platform that allows you to literally, all employees within an organization coming from different departments could come together and make faster decisions, summarize data, summarize information, all the things that you're seeing today with these platforms today, right? Zoom,
Yeah.
Teams.
So this was 15 years ago. You
15
were
years ago.
like, data is actually this gold mine, except we're not mining it.
Yeah.
What if we could? How much would be
What if
possible?
we could?
And
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more, but there's something you said I want to hear more about this. Creativity can really unleash so much innovation, but you said that you were frustrated at first about the amount of capital and resource that this person was willing to give you. How, what switched inside you, or how did you move through the frustration to actually doing something with it?
Yeah. So knowing that you have limited means, so we started engaging with our customer and partner ecosystem to get the best use case in front of us. So I said the best way to go back to the VC who owned a bunch of companies in that region, is to actually provide a use case, develop the interface, and then plug that interface with the APIs into an existing client environment, and then start showing them little results, like show them trend lines, how many people have been engaging more on emails versus how many people have been staying silent, and then go a bit granular into that, how many people have been actually sharing interesting information using the keywords and actually are being productive by being providing right information, and create those trend lines to see productive employees versus let's say teams. So we just wanted it to be still we didn't want it to become like a monitoring tool where people think that, okay, there is a platform that carries a big stick, and if you don't work, we are going to find out. But it was more about corporate productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to work through the frustration was, fortunately, one of the companies that the VC owned was an infrastructure company. So I said, okay, so when you say means, then I would like to sort of, land and crunch the data on the platform which this infrastructure company will provide. So so we use collaboration and cooperation within across the few his daughter companies to kind of build the first prototype of this let's say platform.
I love it. I love it. So it can be easy when people are flush with cash to just look to the cash as the unlock for everything. Absent that reality, you said, what other resources do we have at our fingertips? Let's tap those. Let's tap the
Yeah.
collaboration.
Yeah, I think it's not easy. So one of the learnings, which probably, I guess, we would probably want to summarize on this podcast is actually the thing that I learned, and I'm still learning and reminding myself even till today, till this day, is actually capital does not solve anything.
Mm.
No. So if I'm disconnected from my ecosystem, let's say, we're raising capital now for one of our startups. And I today actually this morning we got a message. I'm not sure if it's positive or negative, so I have to look it up into the portal where we may have received the funding or not. So today is a very exciting day for me. I'm very anxious, talking about the anxiety we spoke just before we kicked off. Expectation mismatch. I'm so great. Why I'm not getting money? That's something I'll deal with it if I see a positive response, that, okay, you have this money, is great. If I don't see a positive response, I think I'm still great. So how do we deal with that? So capital, actually being lush with cash, is not a solution. Actually, it is the fact of life. If I didn't have the ecosystem, even if the VC had given me 5 million euros, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere because I still need infrastructure. All right. I can buy infrastructure, but buying infrastructure is still solving part of the problem. I need to have people participating in that venture to share and help me build the prototype. So we had a network of companies. There was a marketing company that they ran. There was clientele in healthcare and manufacturing companies. So I had an ecosystem for me available. So being lush with cash is zero guarantees that your business will grow. That's what you're seeing in the startup world today. You could raise hundreds of millions of dollars, but if your use case is like you see on ChatGPT, we are still super early days. There's no actual application a retailer or a manufacturer or airlines or automotive industry can use. Being lush with cash basically is satisfying an innate urge that I have capital, so I can hire people, but you can never hire customers. Customers, no matter how lush you are with cash, believe in what you can bring to the table. Then we have capital, so we should work with these people. So that was for me the biggest learning. So I think, no, being lush with cash, however frustrating it seems, because when I look into our bank balance and a bank account or a corporate account, I think, I wish I had 5 million in that account. But it's the working capital. So the working capital needs to work for you literally, and throwing money in trying to buy clients, customers. Many startups do that, right? So OpenAI is doing that right away all the time. They say, okay, we have this partnership, but at the back of the table, there's a deal in which they're not doing any, the customer is not paying anything, but you will not get the customer's real participation in that project.
Yeah.
So being flush with cash is not always a solution. It helps your mental state, solves your mental state that I have a runway for the next 3 years. But if the money you keep burning your money on you have 15 or 20 or 500 employees, the money will run out. If you don't have a
Yeah.
use case, you're still
Yeah.
dead.
I love those two phrases together, that capital doesn't solve anything, and you can never hire customers. That ultimately you've got to be bringing people towards something that they all want to be a part of, that they want to use. And so skipping ahead, so you're starting to integrate. Even in 2010, you're starting to work on some things that are getting a lot of hype now, 15 years later. Between then and now, I think around the middle, you start Deep Cafe. Is that right? In 2017?
Correct.
And you told me an interesting story, and I'd love for you to elaborate on this. Not just what Deep Cafe does, but how you recruit people. Because especially now for AI companies, anybody who actually has any expertise in AI is in very high demand. Of course, founders starting AI companies tend to want to get not mediocre engineers; they want the best. Um, by 2017, OpenAI already exists, so it's not like you're the only game on the planet. How did you think about bringing people under the Deep Cafe umbrella to work together on what you're building? How did you recruit?
So so there's I had no idea actually. I quit my so after my 2010 2013 journey of that startup, which kind of partly succeeded, partly failed, I went back into consulting, and once I left that piece because I was unhappy with what I wanted to do, and also deep learning was really becoming popular in 2014. So 2016, 2017 was transformational for me because I decided to actually give myself a break instead of, trying to jump from one ship to the other. It was very hard because, you're on a fast Shinkansen, the Japanese fast super train, and then you stop and then, everything, the whole world is running and you're like, why should I do it? So, but still my wife, she really insisted that, you've been burning fast, take a break, just go. So I started traveling. I had some cash. I took out shares from my from the past consulting. Was a great firm. So with good understanding, I could leave. I had some capital to spend on myself, on my personal development. So I went back to the core. I think that was so essential because if I didn't focus on myself, how could I ever, get the community to work with me? So I had to be extremely vulnerable to who I was.
Yeah,
I fortunately had network. I had built the Rolodex through the startups in the past and the startup prior to 2010.
yeah. And
So
just I want to go deeper on that. That's one of the things I'm most interested in. What did that personal development period look like? What did you delve into, and uh, and what came out the other side that you either weren't aware of before or were even more aware of there?
I think to me, the most important thing that I got in that period of joblessness was, I could find myself back. Uh, you always you're hustling, you're on a job, and you tend to be in that on the grind. You're like the little hamster. You're constantly running into that same loop. So I realized that actually the world can proceed without me. I thought that it was important for me to be relevant constantly in whatever I did. I had big customers. Today, those customers are part of my network again. And but I think I was losing myself in the grind. So I found myself in that period. So I just kind of gave myself time What came out on the other side was that de-stressed my environment around myself.
Mm.
And I am by nature very high intensity, high energy person. I am. That's how I am born. I'm wired the same, similar in that way. So the de-stressing helped me kind of look at more the things that mattered without worrying about the speed of and back then 2016, 2017, the speed of innovation was not that exteriorized. It wasn't in your face like you see and read today. You know, I do empathize with startup founders today who are literally thinking my business is going to be washed away if Anthropic or OpenAI or Google Gemini just release a side feature that kills my whole business. So I had to de-stress myself and realize that work can continue without yourself. Uh, Take time to focus on things that matter. So I traveled. Actually, I did a lot of traveling in that period from October 2016 to a year in October-ish 2017. I was fortunate enough to be invited to conferences there, in Silicon Valley. I had good networks, so I was moderating, chairing, and also speaking at the events. But I was not doing it on someone's behalf, leave alone my own behalf. And that's how I started connecting to the ecosystem and the network. Well, and how I got to people, the like-minded people to come to me is I had time to actually look at people, what the people were doing. I traveled to, I think, 30 or 40 odd countries of close to about 159 countries I've traveled in my whole life. And so I started enjoying that phase of traveling. Fortunately, the conferences were paying for my travel. And I started educating myself, creating training programs, and teaching people. So that's how I got to know a lot of these pearls that were in that ecosystem. And there were many. So at one point of a time in our lab, we had 40 people, but um, the real trusted ones are still here, part of our network, and are doing amazing stuff.
Mm.
And so those people, we came together with this. We had this common vision. So multimodality was something we were talking about. So human brain. So I could go into really theoretical discussions without any issues or challenges, because I didn't have the pressure of time. I didn't have an employer saying you got to fly back because customer is we're waiting for you, Terry. I had a free pass from my wife. She said, take your time and do what you want to do with your life. That's more important for you. And so I met people. I used to spend hours, days, sometimes weeks traveling across, South America, US, teaching at universities, and so that's how I got closer to this ecosystem. And the people who came and gravitated towards me came naturally. They didn't
Mm.
come because, okay, this guy has $20 million, so let's hook on. So they came with the same motivation of we want to build something transformational in the next 10, 20 years.
Wow.
So that's how it happened. I
Yeah.
don't know how it evolved into this, but I guess being myself really helped me connect to those people.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
even our alumni who came to us, who they've gone to work with startups that were launched by Google Ventures, and they're still close to me. So I
Yeah.
know that once that next phase of that, that I would say moderate and calculated lush, which obviously we want cash,
Yeah.
they will be back on the same Shinkansen that I have built now with this small but wonderful and long-standing, trusted and loyal team with us. But
Yeah.
I'm extremely fortunate. I have no other way to describe this, Jack.
I'm
Honestly,
I'm really
I don't know.
struck. I'm really struck that I'll tell you what I'm taking from it, and tell me if this sounds like an accurate reflection. That actually, what you've built, what you've aggregated, is a community.
Yeah,
And typically in the work world, we think in very formal boundaries. This is the company. This is the structure. This is the org chart. This is who's on the payroll. This is who's not on the payroll, but maybe they're a contractor. There's a solid line, and then there's a dotted line circle that includes some other people. Um, and all of those are sort of artificial notions. Yuval Noah Harari in *Sapiens*, right? He talks about uh, the fact that limited liability corporations, LLCs, are just fictional entities. It's just a story that we make up that
Yeah.
includes certain people, etc. And so we can organize our thinking in that way. But actually, what I'm hearing from you is just this very fundamental. I gathered similarly interested human beings around me by getting to know people far and wide, by following what I was interested in with the blessing of this freedom.
Hmm.
And in this now tight-knit, trusting community, some people who are very close to the core and some people who are still pretty close but involved in other communities, we're all still in this community together.
Yeah.
And when there's an organizing force going in one direction to build something, not just to do R&D, but to build a particular something, some members of that community coalesce around that objective and build.
That's
Am
a
I
great
getting it?
summary. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me.
It's a
Yeah.
process. I mean, it's not a, it's so, there is this strategic intent to achieve something, or there is an intended strategy. I think LLCs and corporations and companies, people teach in theoretical, management and strategy, in MBA schools. The strategic intent is I want to get somewhere. And an intended strategy is where you have put everything on a piece of paper, but then you need cash to make that happen. So you may not get the souls and the minds and the hearts, but you can buy them by offering them salary. A
Yeah.
strategic intent, which I guess from that community perspective was something I actually didn't have a strategic intent. I just wanted to achieve, for example, I wanted to, capture the whole human body genome and the full physical, anatomy, including all organs, and try to make a sort of an AI system. So, I mean, okay, I had this vision to have a super app for healthcare. So I used to talk to, so it was more about wanting to reach somewhere with a goal, extremely, unbelievably, perhaps inconceivable for companies who are doing parts of it in healthcare. So so that helped sort of evolve into this. So I think, yeah, it's 100%. It's a great way to summarize.
Yeah. And one of the ways that I define leadership, this term that we bandy about all the time, is leadership is moving towards something in such a way that other people want to join, which is exactly what you did. You had this notion of wanting to move towards something like mapping the whole human, building something of generational impact, and then people are joining that.
Yeah,
And the details follow.
and the details follow. Yeah.
And in those details, I'm curious if you can speak about some of what you've built, but even more interestingly, what are some of the challenges? Because there's the leadership aspect, moving towards something in such a way that people want to join, and then there's the management aspect, which
Yeah.
I define as facilitating that movement together in such a way that 1+1 = 3. And sometimes in communities or in companies, 1+1 ends up equaling 0.5 or -1. So just walk us through some of the challenges you face, some of the things that you're building, and I'll ask you more questions about that.
Sure. So yeah, I think so. The community aspect was great. It was, it was a great feeling. But then you have people reaching out to you and saying, "We have a project with you and your team participates." So one was to, our folks are spread across the world. They're in Canada, in India, in Middle East now, in Oman, in Netherlands, where we are, located. Our head office is here. and Italy, all kinds of places in Israel, all over the place. People from it was wonderful to have a global family come together, all faiths. I actually have never seen, and I'm so proud of this. I have never seen, or maybe there are startups, but I haven't seen this, multi-faith kind of a community coming together, and our common mission was to focus on science and advancement. And so that was I was ultra proud of. But yes, when it comes to projects, you have to organize, you have to have management, you have to have structure, and that was a little bit challenging because people were coming from different backgrounds and also from different kind of training. Not everyone was, corporate savvy, ready for the game. I mean, I had spent, 25 plus years working with, CEOs and CXOs when I used to work for strategy consulting firms in the Netherlands and in the UK. So I knew how to dress up. So I dressed down in 2016, 2017. I was the guy wearing the same kind of stuff that I'm wearing right now. I used to sit on the ground. We used to sketch algorithms with chalk on the ground. But when, executives and CEOs and chairmen of large companies, 35, $40 billion euro companies reach out and says, you have to teach executive programs to my VPs and also our engineers. We're setting up a lab. We have large vendors coming in. So there's a lot happening in that ecosystem. So we come in as sheep. I bring my sheep if I'm the herder, and if they allow me to be the herder, bring the sheep. And the sheep is, seeing people acting and working with different ways. So that was quite a bit of a steep learning curve for my team. Having regular meetings with the customers. We're talking about, hundreds of thousands of euros, sometimes even million plus euro projects. And that required the team to start also working, walk and talk like the executives, speak in those languages that they like. So there's been a lot of coaching and training I was doing with my team, lots of hands-on trainings, creating videos, how to present, identifying, in a group of multi-vendor environment, how to identify and the stakeholders, how to also manage risks when you are working with competitors who also come into this ecosystem, would want to take a chunk of your pie. So, I mean, I have played and been and worked with the wolves, and had to be the wolf myself when I was in, high stakes, high consulting. And even the startups that I did in the past, we were not making money out of charity or, kumbaya communities that we built, but we were measured on the performance of what we delivered.
Yeah.
So that training helped. The good side of the thing was that I've seen my team grow dramatically. That's been amazing because the greatest fruits of an entrepreneur is not getting a community and saying let's do weekly barbecues and have the pick up our lounge boxes and sit around, because this is not your playground. This is something. It is a playground for sure, but it is a playground in which if I say let's dress up, we have a meeting, we need to fly all of us together to Helsinki, which was a real example. And it was interesting actually. So one of the meetings that I had with one of my researchers, he was in China, brilliant guy actually, and in one of his researches there on our website, he actually was the first person on planet Earth to have fully decoded a research paper, into a software code base, released it for free for the rest of the world to see, on an entirely groundbreaking new algorithm, which Jeffrey Hinton, he's the Nobel laureate now, back in the days. So one of Jeff Hinton's students, she had published. Her name is Sarah Sabor, Iranian by origin, Canadian by nationality. So Sarah and Nick Frost. Nick Frost is the guy who eventually launched Cohere. I'm connected to him as well. So Nick Frost and Sarah, they wrote a paper called Capsule Networks. So my Chinese researcher Huadong Liao, he published that paper. So now people were reaching out to us, and this is 2018, just early 2018. And so people were reaching out to us, and I said, I got to get this guy fly over all the way from China and that was in Chongqing, all the way to Helsinki, because there was this massive project we were invited to and talk about not just the groundbreaking algorithm, but train those people in those new groundbreaking algorithms. Now that was quite something. So it was a huge project, and we get a full suite on the top floor of a hotel, a full suite with big meeting room. I got everything to myself, and he was, I invited him as well. So this, so they had to sort of go through that. There were students. So you go through this journey, and you suddenly are seeing people talking and walking in different sort of jargon. But in a week's time, they were really kind of learning fast because they had to talk in business terms. So I was constantly coaching throughout. So I used to spend insane amount of hours in the night. Said tomorrow we have a meeting. You sleep at like 4 a.m. just finishing all the coaching lessons, and 6:30, we're ready for breakfast. To get there and then present the story in the way that a CEO or a finance director would understand, and then explain it in technical terms. So it was a labor of love, and it took quite a bit of coaching, and I still do that even till this day.
Yeah. And so what I'm appreciating here is, as you gather community around you, the sort of organizing force is both creating something meaningful, but also learning together.
Yeah.
And then the rubber hits the road, and it's time to build something. And you've got all of these very capable minds and interested hearts around you, but there's a lot of shaping and coaching that you're doing to take this sort of raw capacity and be able to channel it into something usable and accessible by whoever the now paying client is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a labor of love. I mean, had we been positioned in another location, we would have, been, already, positioned, I would say, favorably, like, Mistral guys are in Europe. Had we been in Silicon Valley, we would be making waves as well. But I think that the journey is for all companies, big or small, the same. Because right now, every AI startup is actually hiring these, PhDs and postdocs and scientists who have to learn this art. In the end of the day, they have to become the managers. They have to become team leaders. They have to become, quality assurance and quality control experts. They have to understand the language when it comes to things like GDPR. They have to understand privacy, safety concerns, which they may have not learned in their computer science journey. So definitely those were very important parts,
Yeah.
and it's a daily job for me to continue to keep motivating my team this way.
I'm with you. As a full-time coach, I'm very passionate about the work of helping people develop both in their craft, but as human beings, and how coaching supports that. I'm also really passionate about the ways that we can use AI to help people develop not just broad managerial skills, but deep interpersonal skills and to deepen human relationships. And there's a whole world of possibilities that has opened before us around that. Let me ask you one final question for now, Tarry.
Sure.
With this wonderful community of talent and motivation, what's one thing that you've started to build with them recently that you're really excited to let the world know about?
Awesome. So I think the culmination of the years of labor of love and doing a lot of projects, custom projects and building software and interfaces in the past couple of years. This year is actually the moment of truth and a moment of year or moment of the truth year for us. We have developed, so we've transformed our EdTech platform It's called Live AI, where we've trained over 1 million people in the past 7 years, past 7, 8 years. And now we are launching in the next couple of days. We're right now working on the prototype. It's called Lucid AI. Lucid AI is a platform that actually is going to transform learning because it's not anymore a learning management system. It's become a learning experience platform. So the experiential learning is coming because we spent the last 2 years building our own homegrown large language model. It's called Hominus. So Hominus is at the base of this learning platform. And so now I'm actually turbocharging every other, our healthcare project and portfolio, our energy, oil and gas and alternative energy portfolio, which is a startup as well, another company we have, and ed tech. So I'm turbocharging all my previous ventures, which I've been running with LLM. So Hominus is powering this Lucid AI. If you just focus on Lucid AI, the education platform, where there's a very simple so user experience is extremely important to us, and we are saying it is there at your fingertips. So essentially, if you are on your mobile app, you need just one finger. If you are with your mouse, you have a right click, left click. So what that allows is, and I'm sure we'll share a demo with you someday, is that so the whole, you can create a learning course curriculum. Students can actually go to any parts of the curriculum, select and just select an area with your mouse or with your finger, right click it, and you can start talking to our large language model and say, oh, this is a complex algorithm or an equation. I don't really understand it. Can you explain it to me like a 5-year-old? And it talks to the language model, and you can ask it in your own language. You could be Arabic, you could be Italian, you could be Hungarian. So the platform supports 120 languages, out of which we are now fine-tuning each language to bring the context for Spanish, for Italian, for Dutch, in a way that it will answer to you, and then the tone of voice, explain to me like a 5-year-old. Use Lego boxes to give me practical examples so I can understand this algorithm. Previously, people needed people like me to come online with those students and say, "Oh, let me just explain it to you." Now, it's all being handed over to the platform because the large language model platform Hominus, which we built, is facilitating that. So right now, Lucid AI is a fantastic story which we've been selling already while the product is not launched yet. So all the executive trainings I just spoke about, all the Helsinki stories and all the other countries that where I've trained, my life has become easier, and we're making sure that the customers can get this sovereign AI, which is built on European ground and European soil, which makes sure that the safety and privacy is taken care of. And then they can start actually putting it up on their own applications. Someone would want to improve procurement or finance or marketing or sales or any other part of their business, and we can just take full lock, stock, and barrel and place it inside your environment. And Lucid is a perfect example, actually, where we are at this point. What we have built, we are at the point of now raising capital. And again, like I said, circling back to our original question was, in a frugal way and a moderate and managed lush way to run this startup. So that's the wonderful story we have. And in the next week or so, we're going to be announcing it online.
Very exciting. Very exciting. And making education so much more accessible to the masses, to everyone. Really.
Absolutely.
As a former high school teacher and still teacher of adults, I'm incredibly passionate about that, and I'm very excited to see what you launch and to see, not just to see the demo, to use it.
Wonderful, Jack.
Tarry Singh, thank you so much for joining us on AI for That.
Thanks for having me, Jack.